Okay, so this is the Alienware M15 R2, and I like it a lot, but there's definitely stuff we need to talk about. This is a very important laptop for Alienware. It represents kind of like a rebirth or a rebranding of the entire Alienware lineup. And this is their vision of it. A thin and light 15-inch gaming laptop that still retains the design language of an Alien-based thing. This has some of the best looking design elements in a gaming laptop to me. So a lot of companies right now, they've kind of figured out that black and red gaming laptops no longer sell, but they're making these more generic looking kind of black laptops. This is unique. It's got this nice hexagon pattern that appears throughout the whole device, and it's got this back trim that lights up. You can switch all the different colors, and it really does look like some kind of flying spaceship engine. I absolutely love the design of this laptop. Now, it's obviously not for everyone. It's gonna be a look that some people like, some people don't, but for me personally, I love what they've tried to do, and they've executed it really well. If there's any device out there that looks like aliens would actually use it, it would probably be this one. Okay, so the screen, this one's running a 60 Hz OLED panel. They also have a 240 Hz IPS panel. Just open recommendation. If you're going to buy this laptop, unless you actually have a distinct and clear use for a OLED panel, I would opt for the IPS panel. You're just gonna get a way better gaming experience with a high refresh screen compared to a 60 Hz OLED. Now, if you're interested in media consumption and you really want the high contrast of an OLED panel and you just want that HDR experience, then sure, go for the OLED panel. But for most people, that 240 Hz IPS is just way better. And if you're interested in like learning about burn-in and stuff on OLED panels, if you'll notice the screen just dimmed there and I had to tap it to make it come back on, they automatically dim the screen. I don't even think they need to do that. I've done some burn-in tests. I think the OLED panels on gaming laptops are perfectly fine. Okay, so I want to talk about this Tobii eye tracking bar at the bottom. It's this infrared camera that tracks your eye movement, and we've seen this technology before in other Alienware devices. It's neat, and it's got some niche uses, especially from esports, like you can track what you're looking at during games to kind of improve your eye movement, but it just feels really gimmicky to me. And also you'll notice the trim around the screen, it's a lot thinner than before, like it's just a more narrow bezeled device, but they're still using that glossy plastic. I've talked about this before. I don't think they should because it just scratches easily, but it's a very nice looking display area. And I think this is one of the best looking Alienware devices we've seen to date. So down here we have the keyboard, and I gotta say it, best gaming keyboard I've used ever. Like, when I first picked this up, it just felt quite different from every other gaming laptop keyboard. It's very responsive. Like, you actually have to put quite a bit of pressure to tap each key down. It does take a little bit of time to get used to, but once you do get used to it, it's just like, you're gonna enjoy it. I think most people will really like this keyboard. When you compare this to something like the Razer Blade, I don't like the layout on the Razer Blade, but just the keys feel so much less responsive. The Alienware M15 keyboard is great. They've also added individual RGB lighting. It's weird, like Alienware was one of the first companies out there, maybe the very first, to introduce RGB lighting into their gaming laptops, but they kind of fell behind as other companies just did it better. They finally caught up. They have something that is bright, is colorful, and can sit with any of the kind of top tier RGB lighting for gaming laptops. I do not, however, like their software. It's complicated and it needs multiple downloads to get everything set up, but once you do set it up, you can customize this keyboard quite extensively. The trackpad is, okay, so the hardware feels nice. Glass hardware, good click, smooth surface, and the tracking is fine because it's running Windows Precision drivers, but the scrolling is just, something's wrong with it. I think it's a software thing. I really hope it's not a hardware issue, but when you scroll, there's like a very distinct lag or just stutter to the scroll, and it's something that I think they should fix pretty quickly. The overall inputs though, I like a lot, and the kind of surface material that you have on the keyboard deck is this soft touch white material. I really like it. I'm partial to the color, I'm partial to the texture. I just hope that it holds out in terms of just durability. Like if you get Cheetos on this stuff, who knows how to hold up, but when it's new, this thing looks money. The port selection is good. You have a bunch in the back. You have your AC adapter, display outputs, Thunderbolt 3, as well as your kind of graphics amp if you have one of those external Alienware things. You have 3 USB-As and an Ethernet jack. And as I hold this thing around, it's just like, it's cool. It's cool that Alienware finally made something that was legitimately thin and legitimately powerful. However, there's always a however with Alienware devices. Let's talk about thermals. Oh man, here we go. This is a device that I just wish had better thermals. They're not bad, but I've seen better, and I wanted this thing to just have perfect thermals. It does not. This thing will throttle if you push it hard enough. Now, if you're playing a game that is not demanding on the CPU, it won't happen, but something like Apex Legends, you push it, it will throttle. Now, there are some things you could do, like undervolting the CPU. I dropped this down to a -130, but that required me to go into XTU or throttle stop and undervolt it. I really wish that Dell had done this out of the factory, because companies like Acer and Razer do it and you just get better thermal performance. And the thing is, when you throttle in the middle of a game, like especially at a critical point, you're gonna lose. Like you're straight up gonna lose because your frame rate drops to like 10, 15 frames per second. It just happens. Now for some people, like some of you guys watching, you'll look at this and be like, that's not a problem. I can undervolt it, I can even crack it open, repaste it. But that's not everyone. Like we're enthusiasts, we can do this stuff, we care about doing this stuff, but there's a lot of people that are buying this device that will never undervolt it. And they're gonna run into a stutter in a game and they're gonna have issues somewhere along the line. It could have been avoided if they had just undervolted the CPU. Now, whether or not you think that's like cheating or whatever to lower the voltage on these things to get better thermals, but the reality is it works. Now, the performance otherwise is fantastic. This thing's running an i7 RTX 2070 Max-Q. You're getting great frame rates in games, and the fans aren't particularly loud. It's just that I really would have liked to have seen a factory undervolt, so there's absolutely no trace of thermal throttling at all. If you remove the back lid, you have access to the internals, but the motherboard is flipped, so even if you wanted to repaste this thing, it's a much more difficult device to do it on compared to older Alienware laptops. But you do have access to your drives and your Wi-Fi card. The RAM, however, is soldered on, and it's something that bugs me because now you have to decide whether you want 8 or 16 gigs of RAM right at the point of purchase. You can't ever change that over the life of the device. They also don't offer 32 gigs of RAM, so if you're a content creator that wants to use this for video editing, you are stuck with 16 for now. It's a 4-hour battery, nothing crazy. You'll definitely need the AC adapter if you plan on bringing this to classes and stuff, and the speakers are located on the side. They sound pretty good, but the positioning is not ideal. But overall, I feel like they did a really good job with this device. Alienware or Dell, if you ever watch this video, 2 things come to mind in terms of just how to make this thing better for maybe even this iteration if you can do it. Number 1, undervolt this CPU out of the factory. I get that you guys are really focused on performance. You're trying to eke out like the best possible like voltage curves and whatever to make this thing the best possible performer on the market. But for the average person, an in-game stutter at the wrong time is so much worse than not having the best possible boost clock on this thing. Another thing, your software. Like there are companies out there that are working off bare bones laptops that have cleaner and more intuitive software than Alienware Command Center. You guys have to fix that. Whatever you guys have been doing for the past couple years to make it as nice looking as it is, it's cool that it looks good, but it's messy. You guys have to clean that up. But overall, I absolutely love what they've done this thing. I like the direction they've taken with it. And if you're interested in this device, like you've seen it, you can undervolt it and fix any kind of thermal issue you could possibly have with it. And if you do, you'll have something that's really enjoyable to use and just looks so much better than everyone else's gaming laptop on the market. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. See you guys next time.